If you give us 11-ish minutes, we'll give you the top stories of the week. It was a huge week of news that saw breakfast TV grappling with a controversy.
It's been a favourite Aussie dessert for decades, but now there's a new push to rename the Golden Gay Time.
The first thing I would say is that if the Golden Gay Time was renamed Poo Patrol, I would still be very, very keen to purchase it.
Some would say a little too keen. And the UK House of Lords held an impassioned debate about whether biscuit use-by dates are too conservative.
I remember once eating a biscuit which was 20 years old. It was perfectly edible.
Great story. But our week began on Thursday with the Suez dropping down my favourite canal list behind Panama, Venice Grand and Ear.
The Suez Canal, one of the busiest shipping highways in the world, at least it usually is.
The Ever Given vessel is blocking the Suez Canal in Egypt, causing roughly around 100 ships to be backlogged.
The Suez Canal Authority has suspended all traffic going into this major artery that handles 30% of all seaborne traffic.
Yeah, just think of this major artery like one of your body's major arteries. It's bad if there's a sideways ship in it. Now, I'm only an amateur canal enthusiast, but wouldn't it make more sense to build the canal as wide as the longest ship and then maybe just a metre either side of that? Like, I'm just spitballing, because our precious goods were not getting through.
Toilet paper could be potentially affected.
Not toilet paper
Again, toilet paper again.
Global shortages of oil, gas and goods.
Ducati motorcycles and beer from Heineken and stuff like that.
Well, there goes my weekend plan of crashing a motorbike after a few cold Heinekens. But that was not even the worst of it. With one ship's cargo of sex toys stuck in the canal and no sign of when they would get stuck in their rightful canals. Now, I'm only a freelance canal consultant, but couldn't the canal be built with, like, rubber bumpers down the sides like they do at the bowling alleys? So ships could just bounce their way down to the Mediterranean? I mean, it'd be smarter than anything else they tried this week.
Tugboats are trying to manoeuvre the ship and an excavator's trying to dig out the bow.
Lightening the load by removing containers.
What you can't do is take a lot of weight off the ends and put a lot of sagging stress on the vessel. You can conceivably crack the hull, cause an oil spill, but worse, catastrophically fracture the vessel in half.
As the ABC's leading canal spurt, a canalist as we like to be known, I can say that would not be good. But eventually the ship itself was shipped out.
The colossal container ship stuck in the Suez Canal for nearly a week has been set free.
Our long nightmare is finally over. The only thing to do now is stock up on Heineken and dildos. Again. On Friday, Canberra was still reeling after a current affair finally tracked down Australia's dodgiest boss.
I'm doing everything I can to try and understand this as best as I can. Now, I may not have always got it as well as people would like me to, but I assure you, I'm doing everything I can to understand it as best as I can.
If you are saying that you have been aware of the enormity of this issue preceding Brittany Higgins coming out a month ago, if you've been aware of it, when
at a different level. This has taken me deeper into this issue than I've appreciated before.
Where have you been?
At the footy. And that's not even the first time an interviewer was left wondering where the bloody hell he was.
You see here, the pattern is that the women are always the liars. Brittany Higgins was a liar, Sue Hickey is the liar, Christian Porter's accuser has not told the truth either.
No, that is not the assumption. And I don't agree with your assessment of that.
OK.
Yeah, Tracy, you liar. With the crisis solved, Scott Morrison could finally relax, except at the same time, another story was breaking.
Tonight, an explosive 9 News investigation is sending shockwaves all the way to the Prime Minister's office. We've uncovered appalling behaviour by one of his most experienced MPs here in Queensland.
Yes, QLD LMP MP Andrew Lamming, seen here having escaped from a Tara Cash display window, was accused of harassing a charity worker on Facebook.
Alex says she's the victim of slander and false accusations levelled at her by federal Liberal MP Andrew Lamming.
To our Prime Minister, this man needs to stop.
And another woman alleged he'd been harassing her for 6 years.
Sheena, a teacher, claims Lamming rang her school and requested her timetable. In 2019, Sheena says Lamming hid in bushes and took photos of her in a park, which she reported to police.
At this point, I started to suspect that Andrew Lamming, allegedly seen here but who denies the existence of a bush and whose community work includes pushing a child at a fun run, might not be a good bloke. 4BC's Ray Hadley shared my suspicions.
I've checked with a couple of Liberal National Party people I'm familiar with in Queensland and says, is this bloke a complete F-wit? And they replied, yes, he is. He is. Indubitably.
Indubitably. So what did the PM's office do when they heard about the F-wit? This will shock you. F all.
On more than one occasion, Sheena has written to the Prime Minister, both to Malcolm Turnbull and to Scott Morrison, but says no response.
Just another case of the government ignoring people in the bush. But when the media came knocking, the PM finally sprang into action.
The minute we went to the Prime Minister's office with these allegations, Scott Morrison immediately hauled Andrew Lamming into his office and demanded that he cease his disgraceful behaviour.
Immediately. Just a few years after the nick of time. And it worked too, with Andrew Lamming, seen here indicating the size of the government's precarious majority, issuing a rushed apology.
Then, just an hour before this investigation went to air, a shock apology.
I want to retract those comments and issue a public unreserved apology.
Good. Good. Well, I'm just glad that he has definitely learned his lesson.
The member for Bowman was soon back on Facebook.
Ah, shit.
Writing, in this climate, I willingly apologise. I didn't even know what for at 4 p.m. when I did it, followed by several emojis, which he quickly said were an accident.
Yeah, you know, I believe him. I mean, Lamming may have faked his apology, but no one has ever used Facebook's home brand emojis on purpose. Well, it's been pretty full on, but that's the end of it, yeah?
After seeing 9 News' investigation into Lamming, Sean Blinko sent a message to Andrew Lamming's Facebook page. Remember that time you took a photo of an employee bending over at a local landscaping yard, you perv? We had to force you to delete it before you left the store. We remember. The reply: I do, but it wasn't meant to be rude. I thought it was funny, but your reaction was awkward.
The photo was really inappropriate. Especially when I was bent over.
Lamming's defence, that he saw an incredibly hard-working employee stacking a fridge with an impossible amount of soft drink, and he took the photo to show a challenging work situation. Well, he definitely created a challenging work situation for the PM. There'd already been a fake apology, so I guess it was time to hand out a fake punishment.
I'm arranging for Mr Lamming, for Andrew Lamming, to now get appropriate assistance or a proper course to build his understanding and awareness about his actions.
In the meantime, he's been granted 30 days paid leave to attend empathy training.
I'd say that I feel for the bloke, but I just haven't had the training. And as the weekend hit, Andrew Lamming, seen here with his empathy consultant Empo, finally stepped down a bit.
Liberal MP Andrew Lamming will quit politics at the next election.
Liberal backbencher Andrew Lamming is pleading for privacy while he takes a month's paid medical leave.
So the shrub grub gets to keep his privacy and the Prime Minister keeps his majority. Bravo, boys. On a lighter note, also this weekend, the annual Hindu festival Latmar Holi, a ceremony in honour of the god Krishna, who was famously once beaten with a stick by a woman who was a bit sick of his shit. Sticks! Why don't we try sticks? It's good. Next, Monday. And JobKeeper finally dried up.
Up to 150,000 Australians start this working week with a big cloud hanging over their employment future now that the federal government's JobKeeper scheme has officially ended. The payments stopped yesterday.
I was most worried about the ABC's Casey Briggs, who'd clearly blown his JobKeeper payments on futuristic graphics that turned every report into Minority Report.
Rewind back to this time last year, before the pandemic, when there were around 13 million Australians with a job and a bit under 8 million without one. Then the virus forced many businesses to slow down or shut. In 1 month, more than 600,000 people lost their job.
Sadly, since that report, Casey Briggs has been trapped inside the ABC's graphics computer.
All through the year, and these numbers started to recover.
Get off, Casey. Still, it's important to remember why the JobKeeper scheme started in the first place.
This has been the centrepiece of the government's economic response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Treasurer himself has called it a lifeline.
Yeah, see, JobKeeper was a lifeline, but it is fine to get rid of it now since COVID doesn't exist anymore.
Millions of Queenslanders are now in a 3-day emergency lockdown following a spike in community transmissible COVID cases.
Oh, shit.
The cluster now stands at 7 after 4 new local infections were detected.
Earlier today, we learned about 10
New cases, 8 in the community, and a deep fear that it's only going to get worse.
These new cases are the highly infectious UK strain, not good.
We will have to go into a 3-day lockdown.
Well, on the upside, I guess locking someone away for 3 days really is in the spirit of Easter, so good. To Tuesday, and after John Blackman accused Kamal of joining the cancel culture club for suggesting Hey Hey It's Saturday's treatment of guests was racist, Kamal did a run of interviews to say, hey, hey, remember this?
A lot of people may have thought that was in terribly bad taste. Well, it was.
So the chance that the treatment of Kamal wasn't racist? Meanwhile, the Prime Minister launched a new JobKeeper scheme where members of the government were able to keep their jobs no matter what.
Scott Morrison reshuffles his cabinet, but a member of his government who secretly took a photo of a woman as she bent over will remain in Parliament.
Peter Dutton moving from Home Affairs to Defence, replacing embattled Minister Linda Reynolds, who'll look after government services. Attorney General Christian Porter, who remains on medical leave and is suing the ABC for defamation, takes on industry, science and technology.
Wow, that is a full plate. Industry, science, technology and suing the ABC for defamation, which I didn't even know was a portfolio. But that wasn't the only move raising eyebrows.
I just want to talk to you about, ask you about one of the blokes in your cabinet, Stuart Robert. He resigns from the Civil Ministry for breaching ministerial code in 2018, accepts 100,000 in Rolex watches from a Chinese billionaire, gives a parliamentary speech written by a property developer, repays $38,000 for home internet and says my bad when he incorrectly blames cyber attack for Centrelink going down last year. How does this bloke get more responsibility in your reshuffle?
Because he's done an outstanding job in the one that he's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, say what you like about Stuart Robert, and he has been an unmitigated disaster, but at least he failed out in public and not from behind a bush somewhere. But the focus was, for once, not on the men in Parliament.
It's day one of what's being called the PM's Ministry of Women.
The strongest ever female representation in an Australian government cabinet.
And a new task force on women comprising all female ministers and the Prime Minister.
Their first mission to answer the questions, who is women and what does they want? The task force will be headed up by Maurice Payne, who also got a big promotion.
What's better than one Prime Minister? How about 2?
Minister Payne, she is effectively, amongst her female colleagues, the Prime Minister for women.
Ah, well, that explains the complete lack of leadership up until now. Well, congratulations, women. You finally have a Prime Minister.